Black baseball history. Uh-oh, gotta make some adjustments here. Yeah, for another edition of This Day in Black Baseball History. How's everybody doing this evening? Just thought I would come on and do a quick live tonight. Try not to take too much of your time. I say that all the time, and then before you know it, 30 minutes has ticked off the clock and a whole bunch of other crazy stuff. So anyway, guys, I want to thank everybody for joining me and keeping up with me and following these broadcasts. Wow, coming on every night has been just a chore here. I've been trying to edit books, and then I still work, and so just trying to keep up with this pace has been kind of incredible. Thank God I have a spreadsheet with a lot of information in here, and I don't have to go and reinvent the wheel every night. But I certainly want to make sure that when I do come on, I have something to say. So if I'm going to go live, I want to talk to you. And once again, the reason I'm live is because that allows you to be able to talk to me. Now, you can go all over the place and listen to people. They'll have some interesting things to talk about the Negro Leagues. But here's one place that you can actually talk with someone who knows something about this history on a regular basis, right? So if you miss me, you know, maybe 6 times a week, you'll catch me one time out of that week, and we can have this conversation. So, guys, if you're joining me tonight, by all means, let me know where you're joining from. That's always cool. And if you have any like real serious baseball questions, of course, you can always pop that in there. But I'm always interested to know where people are joining from. And if you're a real baseball fan, that's another thing. There are a lot of people searching, looking for interesting things, and they'll probably stumble into this broadcast and they're not a baseball fan at all. Now, here's the interesting thing: some of the things I will give you, some of the topics I will talk about, you don't have to be a baseball fan to enjoy. So let's go to work on these and get busy right now, and let me tell you some baseball, okay? All right. So this is the March 17th, 2026 edition of This Day in Black Baseball History. And today we're going to go way back. We're going to go back before emancipation, all right? So we're going to go back to March 16th, 1858. Now, the reason I'm going to the 16th and not the 17th, because I can't let this one go past without mentioning it. Every once in a while, something will get passed, and I say, oh man, I should have mentioned that. And I didn't have enough time. I try to keep my broadcast limited. But we're going to go back to March 16th, 1858. And Bud Fowler, John Jackson, Bud Fowler, real name, John W. Jackson was his real name, was born in Fort Plain, New York. Yeah, and I don't know, have you ever been up to Fort Plain, New York? That's up in upstate New York. I was this time last year, I was in that part of the country. I spoke at Cooperstown and whereas I was in Albany, Schenectady, went to Gloversville, up in that part, upstate New York. And there was so much history there. I have to go back and give some presentations in that area some more. I was well received, but this is a part of the country that people don't get a chance to hear me as much as they do in the Midwest. So anyway, he was born in Fort Plain, New York. They had about 40 to 50 black people living in Fort Plain and back in 1858, guys. So they moved from Fort Plain, his family did, and they moved to Cooperstown. And Cooperstown had an even smaller black population. They had about 28 people. And so he is getting a diversified experience more than the average person, Bud Fowler was. And so that helped him, I'm sure, in his communication and also his interaction with people once he left and began to play baseball all over the country. That was John Bud Fowler. Of course, he died in 1913 at the age of 54 years. Wow, he's pretty young. And the reason I say that is because, guys, he's about 10 years, he died at 10 years younger than I am now. And I think about that, I'm thinking about me going into my 46 years a baseball historian. I say, wow, that's amazing. But yeah, and he died about a month before his birthday. So he would have been 55 had he lived a little bit longer. And he is buried in Frankfort, New York. And I had the pleasure of going there. And I will probably post a picture of me at the gravesite. I had a good host from the New York State Baseball Hall of Fame who knew right where it was. And I just followed him up there, and so I didn't have to search. And that always makes some of this looking a whole lot easier, right? So anyway, so I have to ask you this: as an African American, have you ever gone to a town that really didn't have any black people in it at all? Have you been to a town like that? I remember as a musician, we played a town called Worland, Wyoming. We came from Kansas City, and we had played Denver, and then I think we came up from Oklahoma City. And so anyway, we ended up in Worland, Wyoming. And when we were wondering, we didn't have all this technology like you have now. You could check and see what the population was. So we were wondering before we got there, were there any black people in Worland, Wyoming? And so we were pulling into town. Uh, we stop at a convenience store, and there's a black guy in there playing a video game. So he said, "Oh man, there must be some black people here." So we started talking to the guy. It turns out that him and his dad were the only black people in the whole town. His dad was a truck driver, and of course he moved there, and he was staying with his dad, and they were the only black people in town. And I remember he asked us, he said, "Man, you guys have any Afro Sheen?" Or, he didn't have any hair products for his hair or anything like that. And so he was borrowing stuff from us because you couldn't buy it at the stores in Worland, Wyoming. He would have to go to Denver or somewhere to get this. And he was a little bit off the beaten track. So it's kind of interesting when you go into places. So I kind of wonder what kind of experiences Bud Fowler have. Guys, these are true experiences. I'm not making these up. As a musician, I traveled around, and of course, I've been a lot more places as a baseball historian. Some really small towns, towns that did not have any black people. I've been in towns where a black person hasn't spoken there, even a pastor for generations. And so people come out of curiosity, see what is this guy all about, And but I'm always well received because people who come out, I truly love people, and I get a kick out of just talking to people and meeting people. And occasionally I'll hear some amazing stories. I remember one time I was speaking in, I was in Cheyenne, Wyoming, and a guy had, this was an older white gentleman. He might have been maybe 70 years old, and he had read about me in the paper, and this guy drove 75 miles just to hear me speak. And he said I was not disappointed at all, and that really made me feel good. So just imagine that, guys. 75 miles to hear somebody speak. You really want to hear someone speak if you drive 75 miles, right? Let's see what he said. I am really, I can't understand what you said. So sometimes when you put things in here, I can't actually read what you or what you're saying. So anyway, don't worry. If sometime I have to say make it a little plainer, and this is just what is it? Foxy _1231. Make it a little more plain, and then I can figure it out. So anyway, that's Bud Fowler. Okay, so I just wanted to make sure I covered that one before I get out of here. Okay, so now I'm going to go to March 17th, 1895. And Samuel Johnson of Portsmouth, Virginia, is organized a team called the Portsmouth Delights. And the following players have been signed: Samuel Johnson, a catcher. I can go through all their names. I'm not going to do that. But he assigned a number of men locally to play for this team. And that's one of the interesting things, because there are teams all over the country that never get talked about. And one thing I like to do is to at least mention their names, right? So this is the Portsmouth Delights. That's kind of a creative name there. And he had a couple of guys, all his players were from Portsmouth except three guys. One of them was from Washington, D.C., and two of them were from Cambridge, Massachusetts. So yeah, he's organized a team there. And I looked a little further, and believe it or not, I couldn't find much of what they had done, right? So they weren't covered very well by the media if they actually got off the ground. But in 1897, now remember, the Portsmouth Delights were 1895. So in 1897, they did have the Portsmouth Giants. Of course, I'm wearing the Giants uniform tonight because it symbolizes all the teams that were named the Giants. Of course, we go back to 1900. They had the Blue Martins and the Quick Steps. Both those teams were organized. So Portsmouth had some baseball. And I tell you a guy that was born in Portsmouth, Buster Hayward. Buster Hayward came out of that area. Had a chance to talk to Buster out in California many years back. And so they were still producing some good ball players, and there probably are others that I'm just missing right now, but I definitely know Buster was from there. All right, so we're going to jump up to, let's go to March 17th, 1914. All right, guys, if you're joining me, you like what's going on here, go ahead and subscribe and catch me whenever I come on, because I'm talking some baseball, guys. I'm really relating this Negro League baseball in ways that you will not hear anywhere else. All right, okay, so here we go, March 17th, 1914. And Count, I'm trying to figure how you pronounce his name, Luigi de Castro. And he was a Venezuelan, a former member of the Portsmouth, Virginia League team. All right. So we're still in Portsmouth, Virginia. And he was approached recently with the proposition of organizing a Negro professional league of ball players comprising of teams from 6 principal cities. And these would be southern cities, with Atlanta being the base for that league. And the following cities that were chosen for the circuit were Atlanta, Birmingham, Macon, Memphis, Chattanooga, and Nashville. And the reason Castro wanted these teams in his new league was he said, first of all, he's considering the offer because they offered him quite a bit of money to try to put this together. And he said it looks like a pretty fair proposition, and the compensation for him would be pretty large. So, but he did go on to say this. He said the proposition ought to pay well. Each of the cities mentioned have a large Negro population to draw attendance from, and you know they will come to ball games. See, black people did support baseball back then. Then, with separate stands for white people, yeah, he was thinking about the race issue too. There would be a lot of patronage from that source. So he said a ball game is well worth seeing, including a lot of features in addition to first class playing. So he knew that black people could play. Now, the reason why he knew that, first of all, he is the first recognized Latin American born player to play in the major leagues. So he had seen the major leagues and he'd seen baseball. So he knew baseball. And this guy appeared in 42 games in 1902 as Lou Castro for Connie Mack's Philadelphia A's. I don't know if you've ever heard of him before. But anyway, so he was highly involved in wanting to get on the proper money, the paying side of a Negro League involving all these Southern League teams. And then he went on to add, now this is why I love wearing this giant uniform. He said, where would he put? He said, one handy thing about the new league is that there would be no trouble about nicknames for clubs. He said, they would all be the Giants. He said, there was never a famous Negro ball team yet that used another name besides Giants, at least none that he could recall. And then he went on to mention the Leland Giants, the Cuban X Giants, the Philadelphia Giants, and the Brooklyn Royal Giants. And so just once again, this is Mr. Castro. They called him Count, I think, Luigi del Castro. He was a Venezuelan. And guys, this is really baseball history. Connie Mack knew who he was, and he gave him an opportunity from Venezuela when he wouldn't give native-born African-American players a chance, right? So that is the story. I don't think that league ever got off the ground, but when you see how many people looked at black baseball and figured they could make some money at it, the two men that I know made the most money for black baseball would have to be Nat Strong, and then I would go back to say Rube Foster, right? Those two men. So just know this, a lot of people wanted to do something with the Negro League, especially when they saw dollar signs. Sometimes I wonder if they really cared about the players enough. And in my mind, I'm not so sure that they did. All right. Okay, so let's see where we want to go next. Let's see. Let me give you one more. All right. Actually, I'm gonna give you a couple more. March 17th, 1925. We'll go over to California. Okay. California. Now, the St. Louis Giants are out there. They're finishing up their Winter League season, and they've got the Giants' regular team, with the exception of Hurley McNair from the Kansas City Monarchs. And so they're out there playing, and man, they just had a horrible afternoon in Sacramento. And Sacramento beat them 17-2. And the Giants used 4 pitchers. Just imagine this, guy. Cool Papa Bell pitched, and his brother pitched. So you could have saw both the Bell brothers pitch on the same day. It was losing effort, of course. George Gurley pitched, Hurley McNair pitched, and none of them had any success in stopping the Sacramento team of the Pacific Coast League. The 2 bright spots for the St. Louis Giants were Cool Papa Bell and Hurley McNair. And they were the only hope the Giants had that day. And both of those players went 2 for 4 and scored a run. Now remember, there's only 2 runs scored, so Bill had 1, Hurley McNair had 1. Now Hurley McNair hit a triple. So he had 1 extra base hit, the only extra base hit by his team, and Cool Papa stole a base. So neither one of those are surprises if you know these 2 ball players. Of course, they were facing a pitcher by the name of Frank Schellenbach. Schellenbach. And he limited everyone to 3 hits. That's everyone else after Kupapa and Hurley McNair had 4. So he ended up with a 7-hitter, and he had his spitball was working to perfection that day, and he ended up by striking out 7 batters. Now Schellenbach also had experience playing in the American League. He pitched for the Chicago White Sox, and he posted a 10-15 record with 217 innings pitched in the majors. And he wasn't there in 1920. Well, I guess it was at the end of 1919, 1920, right in there. And what they did was they made the spitball, which it was his main pitch, illegal in the American National League. So they did grandfather some players in who were still throwing the spitball, but since Schellenbach was in the minor leagues, he wasn't there, so he couldn't come back and do very much because spitball was his best pitch. So we will say this, guys, and you will find this to be fascinating. So he stayed around in the minor leagues, and as a minor league player, being able to use his spitball, this guy won 315 games, and he pitched an amazing 4,500 some odd innings across minor leagues of all levels. And guys, they don't even remember this guy. But I bet you the St. Louis Giants had something to say about him on this particular day because he took them to task that day. Frank Schellenbach, all right? So we're going to bring you up to some modern things today. This ball player I happened to meet and happened to have an autographed picture of him somewhere around here. His name is Clarence Edward Cito Gaston. He was born in San Antonio, Texas, on this date, March 17, 1944. As manager, he led the Toronto Blue Jays to back-to-back World Series titles in 1992 and 1993, and was also the first African-American manager to win a National and American League World Series, a National versus American League World Series. Let me change the way I said that. So Cito Gaston, Cito is still around. He was in Kansas City. I don't know if it was last fall. I think it was last fall. And had a chance to talk to him. I do remember the night that Joe Carter hit that home run and they won the World Series. I was speaking in Milwaukee, Wisconsin that night. I remember it, and they were playing the TV, and I would take a break and go back there and see a piece of the game, and Joe Carter hit that home run. So I always remember I was in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, speaking on that particular night to the Milwaukee Old Pros. Yeah, so I don't. The leader of that group passed away, so I don't even think they're active. And a lot of the older ball players that were connected to that group have all passed away. And man, that's been a bunch of years ago. We're talking about the 90s. So I've been around, guys. This is my 46th year being a black baseball historian. I've seen a lot. Yeah, so even been to some towns that had 2 black people. How about that? So anyway, somebody said, I feel I just got your 1931 Homestead grades. Excited to read it. All right, then. And you're going to be interested to know that Sabre is putting out a version of that. And so they took my work, and they're going to see if they can expand on it. So that's going to be interesting. And actually, they sent me the link. I need to go in there and look at it so I can go ahead and give a foreword on that. So appreciate you reminding me of that. All right. But thank you on that. Thank you for that purchase, though. And hey, and don't forget this one. This one is my latest one. Look how thick it is. This was the 1910 Chicago Leland Giants, and it came out 2023, and it won the Best of Illinois Book Award. So they had some baseball experts read it, and man, they loved it because it went deep. And one thing about this particular series right here, you know, I've had books with pictures in them and things. There's only one picture, and that's here. And it's two pictures. There's one of me on the back. So it's all information, all pure information. And when you read a book like that, guys, and then somebody wants to talk to you about that particular team, the interesting thing is, guys, you will know more than they will ever think that you know, right? Because I'm trying to make sure that this information doesn't die. And I'm trying to deliver it in a way that's entertaining, fun, and also historically significant. All right. So, all right. That will be very interesting to see what they can add. One thing I know they're going to try to add, because everybody does this, when I put these box scores together, I had these box scores and they were missing at bats. So instead of trying to go back and create some at bats, and they have some old formula that they do, I don't believe in it that well, but they do use that. And I don't use batting average. So I give you all kind of information, but I don't give you a batting average. And that's one thing I don't do. But I can tell you how many doubles they hit, where they hit them, how many home runs they hit, who they hit them against, where they hit them. And so when you actually go through the book, you know where this information occurred. Then you can check it against all these statistics on the line that people have been putting down, and you can test it against that. So, okay. So yeah, I just want to let you know that. All right, so I'm going to go to my last one for tonight, March 17th, 1956. Man, I was 1 year old when this happened. Now, actually, I wasn't even 1 year old. I wasn't even born yet. I was born in August of 1956. This is March 17th. So anyway, the Cincinnati Reds B team lost a 9-7 exhibition to the White Sox B team in Tampa, Florida, spring training game. That was spring training action. And Bob Thurman, I had the pleasure of interviewing Bob Thurman, guys. So he was around, and when I got grown, I went down. I was still in my 20s, went down to his house down in Wichita, Kansas. He lived across the street from Bob Boyd. Man, that was the easiest interview I think I ever had. Just go here, and then he calls across and say, hey, he's getting ready to come over to your house. And then I just leave and walk. Didn't have to get in my car, just walk across the street. So anyway, Bob Thurman hit a pair of home runs. And guys, remember Bob Thurman, I think he didn't get to the Cincinnati Reds and actually get into a big league game until he was like 38 years old. He had been playing the minor leagues, played in Puerto Rico, and played in the Negro Leagues, of course. But he's 38 years old and he still was good. All right. Bob Thurman, man. Great interview, by the way. And so he hit a pair of home runs. The first one was a solo shot. His second home run, it came in the ninth inning and tied the score at 7-7. And then the guy that I talked about yesterday, because I just found out that his wife, Judy Pace, had passed away, that was Kirk Flood. So Kirk Flood also had a pair of hits for the Reds. And most people don't remember Kirk Flood playing for the Reds. Yeah. Think about him as a Cardinal. And of course, he wasn't about to leave the Cardinals for the deal they gave him. And that's the reason why we have free agency today. Kirk Flood. But yeah, he was with the Reds, all right? Collected a pair of hits for the Reds, and he was a teammate of Bob Thurman. So guys, that kind of does it for tonight. I do want to thank everybody for joining me. It's been a kind of fast broadcast. I have some more. I always have more than I can give. So I think I could keep you on here forever, but I don't want to do that. And so let me say here. Somebody said, where did you get the cover for the 1931 Squamous Grades book, the solo photo of Gibson, which looks to be a postcard by Harrison Studio? I own the 1931 Grades team picture. I got that a picture, man, let me think about it. I had it for a number of years. I'm trying to think because I could have got it from Ted Page. Ted Page, I interviewed Ratcliffe, Ted Page from that team. Who else did I interview from that team? I know I interviewed those two people. I don't know where I got that from, but Ted Page was a powerful source to me, as was Double Duty Radcliffe. And so, but I just can't be sure. And then also Jimmy Crutchfield had some photographs that he let me use as well. You remember Jimmy Crutchfield? He didn't play on that particular Grays team, but he did play with those guys, especially over at the Crawford. So, boy, that's a good question. I can't remember that right off the bat. But yeah, when they went down to Hot Springs, Arkansas, they took a number of individual photographs, and I think well, you'll see the ones most often are George Scales. You'll see the one of um, Judd Wilson quite a bit. I don't know if I've seen one of Double Duty, but you definitely see the Josh Gibson one as well. And I think there's one of Oscar Charleston that you will see it also. And they had the little postcard backing, that kind of thing. So you're right. I'm familiar with that. So you said the guy's name was Harrison Studios. Well, Harrison Studio. I wonder if that was a black studio or a white studio. Do you know answer to that? I know here in Kansas City, guys, there's an art studio, and this guy had some of the most beautiful pictures. Now, the more famous one connected to baseball is J.E. Miller, and that large panoramic from the Negro League World Series 1924. That's a J.E. Miller print. But there was a guy named Williams here, had a studio in the 1920s. And guys, I will periodically still run across Williams prints, and I'm just amazed at the beauty in these prints. He was simply an amazing photographer. And guys, yeah, I have quite a collection of turn of the century photographs that I use, and that some of them I've never shared. And so, but I am a collector of photographs, but over the years I've gotten rid of a few, and probably be getting rid of a lot more, because as long as I have a negative noun, I don't necessarily need the photograph. And some of them I've held for 40, 50 years, guys. And so I'm going to be letting a few of those go. And because once again, all I need is a negative noun to tell the stories that I want to tell, right? Okay, somebody said, I don't know, but okay, he did postcards for grade. You know, I have pictures of those, copies of those. If you have my book, The Negro Baseball Leagues of Photographic History, you can see a lot of those pictures in there as well. So I don't know if you have that book. That's an award-winning book. I don't have a copy right in front of me to show you the cover, but it's Phil Dixon. It's called The Negro Baseball Leagues of Photographic History. It's out of print. So if you really want to see pictures, it has over 600 photographs. Do you happen to have that book by chance? And somebody said it could have been Vic Harris's son. Now, Vic Harris's son, I talked to Vic Harris's son. He passed away. But Dorothy Harris was the one who helped me the most. And so Vic Harris's son, I think when he passed away, all of Vic's stuff was lost. Am I correct on that? And he had a sister too. And I remember I used to talk to his sister too. She was a member of the Nation of Islam, and I talked to her all the time. So yeah, but Dorothy was the big supporter who kept me enlightened. So I could have got it from Dorothy Harris as well. Somebody said, how good was Willie Mays in the same category as Ken Griffey? Willie Mays was a good ball player, so was Ken Griffey. Hey, but you know what? When you think about the Negro Leagues, hey, I would say that Pete Hill might have been the superior of both of those guys. Pete Hill was just a darn good outfielder. Oscar Charleston was equally superb, guys. So there's some Negro League ball players that, we need to talk about more. And that's the reason why I have this site here, because there are few people who can talk about this in ways that I can talk about it, because I've been sitting with it so long, and not just trying to write a book, but I've been trying to tell stories about as many people as I can. So guys, so I hope this has been interesting for you. Guys, if you like what's going on here and you have more questions, hey, I'll be back, and just save your questions, and you can type them up beforehand, just cut and paste and just pop them in here, right? And I'll see if I can answer them. And one night I'm going to come on, and I'm going to let you know when I'm coming on. And guys, I'm going to have you fire your questions at me. Just fire them out, and I'm going to answer all the questions that I can, guys, okay? So anyway, I just want to thank you all for joining me, and this kind of concludes the March 18th, 2026 edition of This Day in Black Baseball History. And as always, it's been my pleasure. And I always like to end. I've been ending quite a bit with my Satchel Paige quote. And Satchel used to always say, I don't like to be remembered with bitterness. I don't like to remember with bitterness. I try to remember their greatness, for that's what they truly were, greats. Thank you guys, and it's been my pleasure again, and I will see you real soon. Bye.